Thyroid, as a general rule, controls metabolism, heart rate, and body temperature, and it has a lot to do with the immune system. It's important, right? But people today are really into that, or commonly falling into that trap of hypo or low thyroid function. Why?
You don't look like you have belly fat. You might want to get on what we call a body composition analysis machine so that you can actually see how much fat you have and if it's in your organs, because we've seen very, very skinny people actually have visceral fat. That's surprising when we evaluate them through body composition analysis.
Let's talk about a new system. Well, they're bringing it on us, right? They've 90% of all the central banks globally, they're going to come in with messaging like this is the amazing white knight on a shiny horse coming in to save the day, right? Well, no.
We're seeing more and more people have this thing called hypothyroidism, or have the need to have thyroid prescription medication. Well, let's talk a little bit about what is the thyroid in the first place.
Well, the thyroid is a little pair of glands that sit kind of right in here, there on the side of the throat area, and the brain actually signals from the pituitary to the, or hypothalamus to the pituitary to the thyroid to say, hey guys, produce. Thyroid, as a general rule, controls metabolism, heart rate, and body temperature, and it has a lot to do with the immune system. It's important, right? But people today are really into that, or commonly falling into that trap of hypo or low thyroid function. Why?
Well, a lot of that comes from this thing called leaky gut, where the digestive system gets barraged from the standard American diet, and all of a sudden large proteins are now getting into the system that shouldn't be, and the body creates antibodies, and then these antibodies essentially attack the thyroid and slowly through time lower thyroid function. So people start having things like difficulty in thinking. They start feeling depressed or blue. Their speech becomes impaired. They start putting on lots and lots of weight. They have low energy. They may even have muscle weakness. And a common symptom is constipation. They don't move their bowels like they should. Their hair becomes brittle and their nails become weak. And that's all related back to the thyroid, and it could also be related back to the gut and the inability to absorb the right nutrients.
And they're also cold all the time, too.
Yes.
Really a hypersensitivity to cold. You know, it's like everybody that's probably listening right now can imagine this. Picture a guy sitting in a chair that's in his 80s with a blanket on. You walk in the room and you notice the thermostat sitting at 78. You're sweating, but he's cold. What's the riddle, Batman? Well, the thing is, he's got a hypothyroid condition and nobody deals with it. I was on national TV the other evening, and it was talking about the obesity crisis and all this stuff, and I was asked the question, do we and should we be blaming thyroid for the obesity crisis? And actually, it's the other way around. You mentioned leaky gut, which I think was brilliant. So leaky gut is going to create fat gain as well around the midsection. Well, the fat actually creates a hormone called leptin, which is supposed to go to the brain and kind of tell the brain that, hey, we've got excess fuel here. And that's supposed to translate to the thyroid to say, thyroid, turn up the metabolism. That's why when we're younger, we can pretty much see that system cranking our energy level and our metabolism so fast you can't gain weight. But in this case, you're gaining weight so fast, the body gets overwhelmed, and instead of the brain hearing, I have sufficient fuel, the brain hears instead, I've got no fuel, because we become leptin resistant, and that in turn communicates to the thyroid that we've got no fuel, so therefore we've got to turn everything down. So actually it is gaining weight, precipitates most time the lower thyroid function, which precipitates more weight gain, which precipitates more thyroid dysfunction.
Yes, and patients will come and say, well, I want my thyroid tested, and we'll run a full battery of testing, and those tests include a TSH.
Yep.
Oftentimes people get the labs mixed up. They think if TSH is low, their thyroid is low.
Right.
Well, when we're talking about thyroid labs, it's an inverse relationship. The TSH should be towards the low end of the range, and then the T4, which is like this inactive storage pool, should be at the high end of range, as well as the T3. So T4 loses an iodine and it becomes T3, the active metabolic hormone. Now, inside the cells, we really can't measure what's going on inside the cells. No. There are some people that need a little bit more active T3 passing past those receptors to get inside the cell to do metabolic work. So that's why sometimes just a simple T4 medication isn't the be-all, end-all for all people.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it right there, because people need to know this. If you're going to check your thyroid and be complete, TSH, T4, T3. You might want to check a reverse T3, which is something that kind of goes up when there's a lot of stress. And certainly you want to test the 2 thyroid antibodies. But you said something key there, and we're not anti-T4 medications. Those would be things like people have heard of, like levothyroxine, Synthroid. Those are T4s that actually convert to T3s. But sometimes they don't convert, do they?
That's correct. Each person has an ability through the deiodinases, which are enzymes that take that iodine component off of a T4 to make it T3. They're genetically weak in the production of that enzyme. So therefore, they can't make the active T3, and they need to be supported a little bit more than the person who can deiodinate in the appropriate manner and get that active free T3 pool that they need to do the metabolic work.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, you're thinking, those terms are like crazy. Just know that most labs have an average T3, free T3 score of about 2.0 to 4.4. You want to be somewhere on the higher end of that. Probably middle 3s would be a good place to be. TSH somewhere between 0.75 and probably 1.5 is a good general range. But the bottom line is hypothyroidism is super common today, isn't it?
It is super common. And before we go to medication, we're always going to clean a person's diet up. We're always going to help them heal that leaky gut. And we're always going to give them the nutrients that the thyroid needs to function better. Those are things like L-tyrosine. That's going to be iodine. That's going to be zinc. That's going to be selenium. And the components that help the thyroid make active thyroid hormone.
So there you go. You don't have to deal with hypothyroidism. Even though you're listening right now, you might be. Very common. But understand the dynamics of it, understand what causes it, and test the right labs and do the right things. It can be very complex. So if you need help with that, need some instruction with that, reach out to us. We'll be glad and honored to help you. You can go to Sherwood.tv or just give us a call.
This pesky little belly fat, muffin tops, doolies, how on earth did it get there, and how do we get rid of it?
That's the $1 million question. Learn how to get rid of belly fat next.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge, because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does 2 things. Number 1, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
Let's shine the spotlight on one of our star supplements.
The human body can make most of the types of fats it needs from other fats or raw materials. but not omega-3 fatty acids, also called omega-3 fats or N3 fats.
These are essential fats that the body must get from food.
Biomega 1000 provides a potent dose of omega-3 essential fatty acids sourced from a strategically placed fishing facility in the far South Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile.
Each capsule delivers an impressive 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, and the capsules also contain vitamin E. See the link below for a special offer, and remember, don't be fooled by cheap online knockoffs.
The body's amazing at recovery, so you want to give it every chance, no matter what time it is. So in that context, no, it's certainly never too late. You're never too old to start trying to be healthy.
No matter where you are in terms of your health, that you can turn this around.
It's never too late to start a wellness program, and it's never too late to reach your healthcare goals. There's an old adage, and I'm not sure where it came from, but I really do like it. And they say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
We just want people to hang on to hope.
We are hope dealers. And if you are not paying attention to the 4 foundational pillars of health, physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, eventually it is going to catch up.
If we get all those 4 areas right, and we do it right, we see a dynamic occur in the middle called wellness, and that's where people get better. Their health is really going to return as a side effect of wellness.
Exploring biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, or anti-fragility?
Start here. No gimmicks, just proven results.
Today's topic, we're going to talk about this thing called belly fat. And we know that belly fat is oftentimes toxic fat because it's around the organs. And when belly fat gets into the organs, it can create significant compromise.
Well, it can, and we've spent probably hours and really decades talking about this accumulation of belly fat. And I think giving people some real tips on how to reduce that is critical. And it is something that can be reduced. And as we age, the tendency to have it more accumulated and harder to get off the body is common. So, no matter where you are in the aging process, there's some steps here that's going to work for you. If you're not a person who has belly fat, these steps will help you prevent it as well.
Well, and just because you don't look like you have belly fat, you might want to get on what we call a body composition analysis machine so that you can actually see how much fat you have and if it's in your organs, because we've seen very, very skinny people actually have visceral fat. That's surprising when we evaluate them through body composition analysis.
Yeah, and just so people know that the ideal body fat percentage for ladies is between probably 18 and 26%. That'd be a good general rule. The older you are, of course, upper end of that. Men, somewhere between 10 and 16 or 17 is not a bad thing. Older you are, upper end. Younger you are, lower end.
So one of the most important things that we can do to optimize body composition is dietary or nutritional. I hate to use the word diet because the first 3 letters of the word diet are D-I-E. And we want people to have long-term behavioral change and have a relationship with food and enjoy it. So nutritional habits are very, very important in getting rid of that little bit of extra belly fat. And oftentimes we have to get rid of the sugars, the white flours, the white breads, the white grains, all of the whites. If we just stop all the white stuff and get rid of the sugary drinks, that's a big step in the right direction.
It is. And if people just do that right there, is it perfect? No. But is it a step in the right direction? Yes. And so there you go. Tip number 1 is to reduce all the sugary drinks and then the white things like the white rices and the white potatoes and all that kind of stuff.
What about when should we stop eating at night?
Probably give yourself at minimum a 2 or greater gap between the time you eat your last meal and take your last bite and the time you lie down. The worst thing to do for people, if they want to gain belly fat, would be to eat late, lie down immediately. Don't do that. The ideal thing to do is stop eating your last meal, take your last bite 2 hours or more before you lie down.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You said 2 hours or more. If you're going down to sleep on a full stomach, that is a stressor. And
Totally.
your body is really not cleaning itself during the night like it should, so it's under stress during the night. And another way to get rid of that extra belly fat is to monitor or keep a finger on the pulse of your cortisol levels. Now, people are going, well, what are cortisol levels? Can you give us some tips on cortisol?
Well, yeah, when you have an emotion or a thought of fear, anxiety, that's going to immediately produce cortisol. Traffic jams, hearing a negative report on media, getting injured, those things produce cortisol. Eating late and lying down produces cortisol. Key thing, and why this is important, is when cortisol is produced in abundance in the body, we will not break down our food appropriately. Therefore, that equates to more potential storage of body fat.
Yes. You know, I absolutely love taking care of ladies in the clinic. Perimenopausal, postmenopausal, premenopausal. When hormones become imbalanced, that is one of the main triggers for putting on this little belly fat. That's not just true for ladies, it's also true for males.
Totally. There is a ton of scenarios today where men are becoming lower production of testosterone earlier in life. I suppose it's probably because of, diet and toxins and stress and lack of sleep and stuff like that. And they're getting this andropause where their production of androgens are pausing, which is similar to menopause. Menopause can be, obviously the menstrual cycle's pause, but that's when a lady has a surgery of some sort. Even a partial hysterectomy will sort of force that issue. And then certainly when they stop producing hormones. But the absence of hormones, this is key for men and women, the absence of hormones equates to a higher risk of belly fat and even heart and brain and bone disease.
Yeah, this conversation is just ringing the bells in my head about hormones. You talked about leptin, we've talked about carbohydrates and insulin, now we've talked about estrogen and testosterone. So hormone balance is very, very important to helping regulate this thing called body fat. At what age should somebody have their hormones checked?
Honestly, today, I think men in their 30s, I really do, and I think ladies probably in their 30s too. Obviously, ladies might before that because stress can do a number on a lady's menstrual cycles. I was talking to a lady just the other day, and she was like saying, well, I hadn't had a period in X number of months. Is there something wrong? And then I started digging into her background, and she's really a high-level athlete, exercise highly intensely, and she was even doing 2-a-days. And I said, well, this is why, because your body through cortisol, stress, is interpreting that as being chased perpetually by a bear. And obviously, it wouldn't be wise for your body if, while being chased by a bear, you all of a sudden decided to want to produce a baby because the bear's going to eat the whole darn family. And she's like, oh, I get it. So really, I shouldn't worry about it. The answer is, don't worry about it. But maybe the stress is creating that process. But perhaps, late 20s, early 30s for men and women would be wisdom.
So we've talked about nutrition. We know exercise plays a huge, huge role in it as well. We got to move more, sit less.
Yep.
We got to have good hormone balance. It's good to check our labs at a certain point in our lives. And then what about, there's certain supplements that can really help either be appetite suppressants or kind of help us burn a little bit of extra belly fat, like the DHEAs of the world and some of the bitter oranges that kind of help, tone down appetite.
Yeah, there's a bunch of little supplements that can help, and you reach out to us. We got a bunch of them there. You mentioned DHEA, Thermo EFX, which has some bitter orange in it. We got something called EndoTrim. We got a whole gamut of stuff to help people lose body fat, including these tips. So the bottom line is you don't have to have the excess body fat around, and if you do, we just gave some answers. So please consider reaching out to us. Check us out on our website at sherwood.tv, or you can check out our clinic by calling the number on the website too. We're glad to help you. Up next, our financial guru, Kirk Elliott, gives us advice on what you need to know at this time in history.
Let's get real. Most emergency food is just as bad for you as any other choice in the standard American diet. And that's just sad.
We don't just need food. We need highly nutritional food.
We don't just want to survive food shortages. We are meant to thrive in adversity.
Complete your daily nutrition and have shelf-stable Kingdom Fuel as a cornerstone of your food supply.
Don't sacrifice your health or your taste buds.
Stock up on Kingdom Fuel now.
Hello, I'm Kevin Sorbo. Now, there's an old saying, it's not what you know, but who you know that matters. Now, that's true in our careers, spiritual life, and when it comes to our health and overall well-being. Today, most of us know a lot of information about health and nutrition, but are we really doing anything with it? So here's what I've learned from working with Doctors Michele and Mark Sherwood. They're the founders of the Functional Medical Institute. You need a wellness plan that's customized based on your unique needs. Now remember, real change can only happen when you address the whole person. That is exactly what Mark and Michele do, and why they are people you should know. They'll help you discover what you need to experience transformation. Find out at sherwood.tv/Sorbo. That's sherwood.tv/Sorbo, or just see the link below. Have a great day and God bless.
I could use your assistance.
Okay,
Jesus. Huh? My name is Jesus.
Sure. Jesus.
Jesus is here today.
You looking for a job?
Yes, sir.
You and Mark have 45 days before the bank forecloses.
Not to worry. They do not call me, by God, Byron, for nothing. The collection plate starts to be passed around. Mark reaches into the basket and shouts, "You and your family are the winner from the first church of the lotto." Kind of think of it like a high-stakes bingo night every Sunday.
Poopy diaper!
Poopy diaper!
This video of the diaper is going viral right before our eyes.
This is a miracle.
What is?
Friends of Faith has over 300,000 followers.
Oh my dad! That's more followers than Moses had.
Jesus! Take the wheel! No, take the wheel!
I got it, buddy.
Hey, Mark, it's great to be with you again. And we've all been talking about the globalists and their plans for a big global reset and what that means for a long time now. Well, starting on January 16th, for 1 week, they were all meeting the G7, the G20, the IMF, the World Economic Forum. All the big globalist policy leaders globally were meeting in Davos, Switzerland, like they do every single year. They had this confab, right? So what were they talking about, right? Well, before they even met, their notes came out, the outline. This is what we're going to talk about to all you people that are here, right? All the globalists, and we've got Republicans and Democrats and politicians there. They're all meeting. And what are they talking about? What did they talk about, right? So according to the World Economic Forum website, these are the topics. And again, like I've said before, words have meaning, right? So let's listen to these words. They're bullet points. They're going to address the current energy and food crisis in the context of a new system for energy, climate, and nature. They're going to address the current high inflation, low growth, high debt economy in the context of a new system for investment, trade, and infrastructure. Address the current industry headwinds in the context of a new system for harnessing frontier technologies for private sector innovation and resilience. They're going to address the current social vulnerabilities in the context of a new system for work, skills, and care. And they're going to address the current geopolitical risk in the context of a new system for dialogue and cooperation in a multipolar world. It's like, what's all this talk about a new system? Well, they're bringing it on us, right? 90% of all the central banks globally are now starting to issue central or going down the path of a central bank digital currency. Now, they're going to come in with messaging like this is the amazing white knight on a shiny horse coming in to save the day, right? Well, no, this is not what it's about. All that a central bank digital currency is cryptocurrency. It's a digital version of the paper money that they already print. However, so they can print just as many dollars as they want, right? Or as many yen or as many euro as they want. they can issue as many digital version of that currency as well, because there's no tangible backing behind it. So it's going to do nothing to address the inflationary pressures. But here's the deal, Mark. For, the old saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. Okay. Nobody would want a system where your digital social profile, what you spend money on, what your religion is, who you donate to, what church you give to, what political party you give to, how you spend your money, have you been vaxxed or not vaxxed, right? All of this is part of our digital social profile. And if they don't like it, because it's programmable money, they have the authority to shut off your ability to buy or sell. This is what a digital social profile attached to a central bank digital currency does. So when they're talking about a new system, this is the system they're talking about. How do I know that it's not some other system? Because further on in their notes, they talk about how this is going to be a new normal, how they have to talk about a global coalition for digital safety, because there's big efforts that we need to tackle here. They need to talk about applying human rights to the digital world. Why? Because they know that their system is going to strip away our privacy, our freedom, and our rights. And so they need to talk about how are we going to tackle this when we're going to have a ton of opposition from stripping people of their freedom and their privacy completely. So this is what's going on politically. And all of our investments, Mark, are a combination of some puzzle pieces. The political puzzle piece, the economic puzzle piece, the social puzzle piece, right? They all get put together. And this is what I do and what we do at our firm is put those puzzle pieces together and strategically put together a system to get out of the path of this hurricane and safely reallocate to get out of the system where you're not just a digital number, where your programmable money can shut you off from buying or selling, right? So how do you do that? With tangible assets like gold and silver that not only have we talked about in the past how they're great investments. I mean, they're booming, but they're also in this respect, also instrumental in protecting your religious freedom, your personal freedom, your political freedom, your economic freedom, your health freedom, because it's private. They're private transactions. So call our office. Mark, you and I talk a lot about this, and every one of the viewers should give us a call because we can strategically map out. It's a free consultation, your strategy for success so you can thrive. And all you have to do is go to kirkelliottphd.com/Sherwood, or you can just give our office a call, 720-605-3900, and say Dr. Mark sent you.
Exploring biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, or anti-fragility?
Start here. No gimmicks, just proven results.